Well, my biggest session win was over $40,000.
Total wins $1,035,000. I finally hit the million mark.
Church team won $3.2 million, including the church team is about $4 million.
This whole series is made possible by BlackjackApprenticeship.com. If you are interested in learning to count cards, there is, in my opinion, no better resource in the world. They have a video course, training software that's been developed specifically to help you practice the different elements of card counting. There's a community forum, which I visit all the time. They've taken something that's normally very difficult to learn and made it so much easier. Use the link in my description to find out more. I'm currently in Las Vegas, which is crazy to say. I've never been in America before, so just being here is really, really cool. I'm currently stood outside my Airbnb, which is one of the most amazing houses I've ever been in. I cannot believe that I managed to get a house this cool, this cheap. I got really lucky on this one. Someone is in there right now, and I don't want to sort of vlog in the house. However, I will show you the pool where we'll continue this video. One of the things that I'm already learning about Vegas is that it's very difficult to find a place to stand which isn't really, really sunny and bright. Like, look, if I move over here, that's good vlogging times, isn't it? Here's the pool. I got up at about 6 AM this morning. I did wait for the sun to rise before going in the pool, and I thought, oh, you know, it's a little bit cold, but it'll be okay. So I just jumped in the pool. Oh, it's cold. I'll come back to this when it's warmer. Slight regret, but it was also very refreshing. Now, I probably need to update you on a couple of things because I realize there's been quite a jump in terms of me going from, hey guys, I'm gonna learn how to count cards and go to Vegas, to being in Vegas now. Aren't I a little bit early? Isn't it a little bit too soon for me to be here? Well, yes and no. So currently, as it stands, I came up with the idea of doing this video series a few months ago, and then I started learning to count cards. Now, by no means am I ready yet to count cards. I've got some of the basics down. I'll talk about more of that another time. So I've come to Vegas today, not to count cards, but to learn more about card counting. But before I get to the card counting, I'm going to take the opportunity, whilst I'm in Vegas, to explore, see the sights, and just go and do some Vegas-y things. Let's go. If you're interested in watching me explore Vegas or watching some other deleted scenes from this series, check out the link in the description. But right now, let's move on to the card counting. Good morning. So today is what it is all about. What's happening today is the reason that I came to Las Vegas, and that is that I have a boot camp on card counting. There's an organization called Blackjack Apprenticeship that, full disclosure, I am working with in this series. So whenever you hear me mention their name, bear in mind that it is in a way, it's not like an ad in that they're telling me what to say, but I am working with them. So there is a level of spawn there, wherever that lies on the guidelines of the spawn. Anyway, they basically teach people how to count cards. They take you from the start process all the way through to being able to do it professionally. I've been learning using their resources, and today and tomorrow there is like the boot camp weekend where there's like a training session, and it's gonna be so awesome. I'm not actually quite sure what this is fully going to entail. I feel a little bit out of my depth, to be honest. Everybody there, I imagine, is going to be a more proficient counter than me, but I'm very excited. Look how bright this is getting. Vegas, you're killing me with all this brightness. I just want a shady spot for the video. Anyway, let's go do that. This is Colin Jones. Colin is a card counter who has done very well. Here he is giving the opening talk to bootcamp, mentioning how well his team did.
And the church team won $3.2 million, and so between the various teams before and including the church team is about $4 million.
So Colin has retired from card counting and now makes a living teaching other people how to count cards. I came across Colin in a documentary called Holy Rollers, link in the description, well worth a watch, and emailed him back in March 2018 asking, well, if he'd be up for teaching me how to count cards. He was like, yeah, okay. A few months of practice and a 10-hour flight later, and I'm at boot camp, the place for serious, aspiring card counters to learn how to beat the odds. Anyway, back to boot camp. Okay, just stepping outside to have a little bit of an update. So far, it seems that the format of the day is to have a series of talks on card counting, and in between each of those talks, there's like a training session. So we sit down with a card counter at a blackjack table, and we play, and then they basically try and test us and like screw us up, you know, just like try and throw us off a bit and see how good we are at counting cards and just find errors in our game.
17. Let's pause for a minute. How much do you have? Okay, don't trust your dealer.
Okay, fine, sorry.
So that, your dealer is gonna make mistakes. You have to play better than they do.
And I sat down and I was so freaking nervous. I do not know why I was so nervous, but it was just like, oh, I was almost shaky. I was really, really nervous. So it was fun. But as I eased into it, it got a little bit easier. You kind of adjust to some different playing conditions that I'm used to. Normally I just play on an iPhone app. So just having the cards dealt down in real life, I actually found as I got the hang of it, it's easier than what I was doing before. So feeling really, really good. Like, it feels so crazy to be sort of just getting into this world. It does feel a little bit weird filming, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't want to film too much in there, because even though everybody knows that I'm gonna blur all their faces, it does feel a bit strange to film in such a secretive, like, it's naturally a secretive thing, right? People that count cards, they don't want their faces anywhere, so just having a camera there makes me feel like some kind of weird journalist that's breaking all the, breaking all the code. But it's all fine. Having a really good time so far. The day continued with more talks and more training sessions with different card counters. It's great to have different people deal to us, because people deal at different speeds and have different ways of handling the cards. And that helps simulate the variables of a real casino environment. Oh yeah, there were also some snacks, and I ended up doing some magic, which was fun.
No way. Unbelievable.
Thank you. That pretty much concluded day 1, which brings us nicely into day 2. It is Blackjack Apprenticeship day 2, and today I've decided to really get myself ingrained in Las Vegas culture. So instead of walking 20 minutes to get to the boot camp, today I'm just going to get an Uber. Congrats on having the highest Uber rating I've ever come across.
Really?
Yeah, 4.99.
Yeah.
Someone's doing a good job. Am I at the right place? Is this the right one? Once I found the right house, we dived straight into some playing sessions and then a few talks with some legendary card counters. I also had a chance to interview a former blackjack dealer turned card counter. You started off as a blackjack dealer.
Yes.
Professionally, and now you're a card counter.
Yes.
And I think that, I don't know yet, because by the time these videos are released, I won't, I'll just be seeing the opinions of people. But I imagine that some of my audience might question the ethics of card counting.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought you'd be the perfect person to ask about this, because you've literally been on both sides.
And my dad's a lawyer.
And your dad's a lawyer, so you get even extra.
Yes.
Brilliant. What's your opinions on the ethics of card counting?
One, it is legal in the United States, and we just had a guest talking at the boot camp who he who has no name.
Yeah.
Maybe he has a name, but anyway, he's the one. We've talked about this before too, where this has only actually been, card counting has only been litigated in the United States in a couple of the states. In his opinion, it's ambiguous whether they even have a right to ask you to leave.
Right.
In I believe it's 3 states now where it is actually illegal to ask a card counter to leave, because the judge has ruled, which just makes sense, that you are using the same amount of information that everyone else is that's playing. You don't know what's going to happen next. You could lose for hundreds of hours before you win. It's not a guarantee. So to play the game as it's been offered by the casino, how can that be wrong?
Well, that's the thing I would sort of think about, is that casinos are inherently structured, and everything they do is to try and make you lose more money, right down to sort of the layout and not having clocks and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think of it, if they spend all that money and time to maximize their profits, I think it's fair game to spend time figuring out a way to beat it.
Totally. And if someone comes up to me and says, your game's too good, play anything but blackjack, I'm incredibly respectful. I say, thank you so much, and it really, it
Do you think that's fair? Do you think it's fair? Yeah.
I can tell you that when you get backed off, when you're down like $20,000 at a huge, like one of the big casinos, I don't know that it doesn't feel fair, but it's like you can afford it. Like you could and certain places will, there's just as many places as the places that kick you out when you're down and they're rude, there's also the places that they let you play to get to even and they ask you to leave.
Wow, I didn't know that was a thing.
The way that I feel about it is kind of like it's a Tom and Jerry, like we don't love each other, but like they're playing the game and we're playing the game. If someone's coming up to me and, you know, they shake my hand and say, you know, thanks but no thanks, the way that it's structured right now legally, they have the right to do that, just like I have the right to play there in the beginning.
As a card counter, what's your best high been and your biggest low, I guess?
Financially?
Well, I don't necessarily mean money.
Emotionally?
I mean, you can mention money if you want, but I just meant in sort of in general.
Well, my biggest session win was, I don't even remember the exact amount, but it's over $40,000.
In one session?
Well, we were playing a really crazy game it was a game in Europe that was a 2-to-1 blackjack situation.
Wow.
And it was like really, the first night we played, we lost. We didn't lose, but we were down, I think, $56,000 US at one point.
God.
Like it was seriously, it was supposed to be the easiest game we've ever played, and it was like so brutal. But my session, we ended up winning, you know, a lot. And then the biggest low, I don't remember.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I'll take that as a positive answer.
I've had, I don't think it was more than 30,000, but I've had big losses too. And I think this is definitely a job where you want to still prioritize self-care. I was bankrolled when I played. I didn't play with my own money, but it still can be really hard to judge success because for this person, how much they're working, they might feel that the amount that you're able to work isn't enough or vice versa. And so really locking in on like, why am I doing this? Setting up limits for yourself of like, okay, this is work time, this is not work time. Really like on top of yourself as far as like the emotional discipline is really important.
Cool. Well, thanks so much. We appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the main thing that today is about, other than more talks and more blackjack training, is basically having like a mini test to see where we're at. So everybody's getting like an individual, I think like a one-on-one test with Colin, and he's assessing their game and finding out exactly where they're at. So I've not done mine yet, but I am excited and I guess a bit nervous about it. We'll see how I am, and hopefully I won't make any mistakes. And then if you do want to zoom in, you just, this big thing here, you just do that or that. Turn it either way, and the focus should be automatic, so don't worry. So as I mentioned, day 2's main focus was the test out. This is where a card counter will deal to you and assess your card counting ability. Sort of like a driving test for card counters. If you pass, you're ready to hit the casinos. If you fail, you need more work. I did my test out with Colin, but I was doing more of a mini test out just to test my abilities so far. There's a mathematically correct way to play blackjack. They've had computers play billions of hands and they found the perfect strategy, which you have to memorize. It's actually fairly complicated, but it can be learned through enough practice, so I'm being tested here on if I make any playing errors according to that strategy. As well as that, I'm trying to keep the count, which is basically keeping a mental tally of how many high or low cards have been played, so I know how many are left in the shoe. I'll explain how this all works in more detail when I'm back in London, but for now, just know I'm trying to do some mental juggling, and I'm being assessed on whether or not I drop any balls. So the good news is I passed my mini-test. Everything I've learned so far I seem to have in my head pretty well, which was surprising to me because just yesterday I was making mistakes. But hey, I'm not complaining. That was the end of boot camp, and we all went to celebrate apparently in card counting tradition by going to In-N-Out. Famous, iconic American places. I had some fries. They were nice, I guess. This took me to my last day in Vegas, where Colin would give me a very honest review of my card counting ability so far. We did the little, like, I'm going to say mini test out. How did it go from your perspective?
It actually went better than I was expecting, because the first day you were making more running count mistakes.
Rank count?
No, I lost you. I lost the running count then. I had it, and then we chatted about Nick on.
See? Yeah. First things
11.
first, running count.
Yeah.
And maybe a little word of frustration, and so I was kind of expecting that. During the evaluation. Usually it can be a little bit worse because of the stress of it, but you actually kept the count. I don't know if it was perfect. Wasn't it? Was it perfectly?
Yeah, I didn't lose the count.
Yeah.
I think I had maybe one deck divisor.
No, but keeping.
those.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. You'll get that down. That's really just kind of training your eye, and that'll refine just as you get more time with it. But if you're having trouble with the count, sometimes more time isn't gonna.
Yeah.
If you have bad habits, more time's not going to solve it. So I was really impressed with that. Your basic strategy has been perfect, which is really, like I always say, it's the foundation.
Yeah.
And so I feel like you're on the right path. And what I want to see is even if there are more hands being held for that counting to continue to be perfect, and I want to see you add those deviations, which I'm not worried about, but it is just a little more multitasking.
Where would you say on the sort of, because whenever I've been looking at card counting, I've tried my best to not look so much at the bigger picture, because if you look at all the things you have to learn, it's quite daunting. So I've always just looked at basic strategy. That's what you said do first, do that. And then I think, okay, keeping the running count, etc. So I'm still not quite sure how far along, say 100% is being able to go out and positive EV, then where am I on that scale, do you reckon?
70%.
Oh, wow, okay.
So here's what you need to do. You need to get the deviations down. And you can technically beat the game without deviations, but I wouldn't encourage someone to be playing, for serious profit if they don't know them.
Yeah.
I tell people it's like giving yourself a 20 to 40% raise. Why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, totally.
So you're clearly sharp enough you can do it. It's just going to take some practice. If you can do the true count, which you can, then you just have to do that for these 20 different situations where you would not follow basic strategy. So you need to do that, and that's not as hard as learning basic strategy or counting, but you need to do that, and then you need to basically get to the point where you can implement that perfectly both at home and in a casino. And that there's no rule of how many hours it takes. I think your personality and your experience with performing to do busking and magic tricks, you have to have kind of control of the situation, and that absolutely applies to in a casino, where some people, if they were to be in front of people, would fall apart. They might also fall apart in the stress of a casino. So I'm not worried about that, but it is just a little bit of time.
It's kind of interesting about I think busking is one of the best things I could have been doing before this, because we have variance in busking. Like, you do a great show and you don't get paid, or you do a bad show and you get paid, or there's so many factors in that, and a lot of buskers, they lose their cool. I've seen people just like throw their hat down on the ground, and it's like, you can't.
Well, with card counting, you could put on a great performance and lose money.
Yeah.
But you just got to have that thick skin and that, bigger picture view.
When I've been like trying to learn and read about card counting and stuff, one of the books I read was all about cover plays, and I'm sure you've read it. I think you interviewed the guy, or I get mixed up because I read the book from the guys that worked as a two-person team.
Yeah.
That you did on the podcast.
Blackjack Life.
Yeah. I read another book that was, I think someone maybe recommended on the forum, and it was all about cover plays.
Was it Burning the Tables in Las Vegas?
That's the one. When I was reading the book, I got about halfway before I realized that it's quite old.
Well, that's why I wrote a book. Like, I love that book, Burning the Tables in Las Vegas. I voted for the author Ian Anderson to be voted into the Blackjack Hall of Fame every year at the Blackjack Ball until he was in. Like, crazy respect for him, love that book. But I tell everyone, disregard his cover strategy, because that just doesn't apply to today's blackjack.
Yeah.
If you really want to get the money, you gotta play the way that we train people, which is fearlessly, aggressively. And the difference is, back then, this guy is talking about lasting in Vegas for years and years and years by using this elaborate cover strategy, but the games were different then. And now there's just so many casinos to play. It's a different game than it was 20, 30 years ago. It's as beatable, but you got to approach it differently.
One of the things that I've sort of realized is that this takes a lot of work, which is what I expected, but now I'm doing it. Do you think that when I post these videos, that will make it, because your face is public, and you don't really count cards so much anymore because you're doing like these other things, but when I post these videos, this is great, isn't it? Loving every background noise that can happen happens.
So
we'll finish it up, but just because I'm interested, do you think that when I post these videos, it's going to be so much harder for me to count cards, or do you think it's like being known is like a small thing?
We'll find out, but I don't think so.
Oh, that's good.
So many casinos, they're not that smart. If I can still play on the Strip in Las Vegas, you'll be fine.
Cool. Well, on that lovely background drilling, we'll end it there. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
That concluded my first time in Las Vegas. The talks and training sessions were invaluable, but perhaps more importantly than that, bootcamp really gave me the feeling that I could do this, that I could count cards and beat the casinos. Next time on Beat the Odds, we skip 11 months ahead, where I find out just how much money I'll be playing with. Spoiler, it's a lot. And I do the final preparations before diving into a month-long card counting trip. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. And if you're interested in card counting, check out the link in the description to find out more.